Cool. So, and it is 2:05 and I'm on. Hey, this conversation is all about tips on how to get more value out of your resume. And so for those of you who have never met me or heard me speak, not only am I first and foremost a LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach, but I'm also a career coach. Been doing career coaching since 2005. Used to work for an outplacement firm. I used to work for a dude that ran $100 million Olson staffing divisions. I learned about applicant tracking systems and resumes and interviews and cover letters. And I've been, it's been a sideline part of my business for many, many years. And I love to help people figure out how to do it a little different and a little better so they get a little more value out of what they do. So we're going to talk about resumes today. Okay. So again, I've been practicing since 2005, trained by a company called CPI. And I love helping people figure out how to do this different and better. So what's the purpose of a resume? Hey, drop it in chat. Anybody want to share what they feel is the purpose of a resume? Use the chat box and drop it in chat. And let's see, I've got everybody who is here right now. I've enabled your microphone. Binette, good to have you on here. So use the chat, please, and tell us what you think the purpose of a resume is.
Thank you. All right.
Sylvie says to sell your skills. Come on, I need a few others to engage. There's 4,000 people on here. Divide by 1,000. Come on, somebody else jump in to the chat box and share what you think the purpose of a resume is. Introduce yourself to the employer. Good stuff, Taylor. Share your backgrounds and skills. Those are all good answers. Let me tell you how I look at this. It's to create interest in you as a viable candidate. It's to create interest, and through your skills, through your background, and by introducing yourself to the person that you want to have a conversation with. Absolutely. Showcase your relevant skills. Look at the word relevant, your relevant experiences, your relevant professional development, your relevant education, everything that's relevant to the specific position you're applying for. It should be designed to get you into the conversation with the hiring manager and or HR. The interview, the conversation gets you the job. If we're relying on our resume to get us a job, it won't work to our best advantage. Our resume should be to get us the conversation. And by the way, I'm Teddy Burriss. I'm full of ideas. Use them where you see fit. And sometimes I say that just to remind us and remind myself that not all of my ideas align with everybody's needs. So I got teased about this one day when I said this recently. I refer to your resume as an ongoing obituary. I still stand true behind that statement. Unfortunately, that's true because of the way most people write their resume. They write it as if it's an obituary. There's no passion. There's no clarity. There's no stories. There's no clear, concise relevance to that document. And thus it becomes an obituary. And neither an obituary or an autobiography is useful in your career journey. So if you want to be a little different, if you want to be a little better, put clarity, put stories, make sure it's relevant, keyword rich. We'll talk about some of this. And get your resume to look more like a brochure, focused on the target audience, focused on the hiring manager / HR person to get you to that conversation. So here's some tips that you can use to create more value. And again, feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand, hit the chat box, whatever you want to do, and ask me any question. You got to make your resume keyword rich. It's got to be focused on the job you're applying for. So the applicant tracking system's algorithms do not immediately kick you out. So you need to know what are the keywords, what are the phrases, what are the terms you need to use. How do we get those terms? Well, first of all, the more focused you are on a specific job, the more focused you should be on using those words relevant to that job, relevant to that role, that industry. You can find some of these keywords in the job descriptions. And I should have made that plural because it's not just one job or one job description. You should collect these keywords for specific jobs that you're applying for across multiple job descriptions and get a smattering of them that are all relevant rather than just one person's 5 or 6. You can find them on the company's website. You can go look at look at the company, look at their products, look at their industry, look at their region, look at the people they serve and how the words that they use when they're talking about their products and services, et cetera, et cetera. And sometimes you can find those keywords in that conversation. And when you write the content for your LinkedIn profile, or in this case, your resume, you want to write it clear. And you want to think of each sentence you write on your resume, should it and does it include a keyword? Not every sentence has to, but you should be asking yourself this question: does this sentence have a keyword, a relevant keyword in it? And if it doesn't, should it? So that you're being very purposeful about using your keywords throughout your resume. No keyword stuffing. Don't write a whole series of keywords separated by a comma and plaster those in your summary sections or plaster those in your skills section. Keywords should be spread out across the words that across the sentences that you're writing, so that people will read those words in the conversation, not be smacked upside the head with a pile of keywords. And if you're using the right keywords throughout all of your content, throughout all of your resume, the applicant tracking system is less likely to exclude you. Somebody else may exclude you, but at the very least, the applicant tracking system is going to go, all right, this person's using keywords in the right context, in the right ways. Let's leave this resume in the pile for a human to see. Keywords, tip number 1, number 10, going it backwards. Tip number 9, stand out with your stories. Don't create a cute or flashy resume unless you're applying for a content creative role. You want to stand out by using each of the different sections that you may have on a resume. And everybody's resume doesn't need to be exactly the same. But you want to showcase your skills, your experiences, your accomplishments, and also what you enjoy doing, all within the context of what you're writing. And there's a philosophy called PAR. PAR stands for problem, project, action, result. Problem or project, action, result. Problem project is, what did the company need? What did the department need? What did the person that you're serving need? Was it solve a problem or create something? A is action. What did you do? What were your specific actions that you did focused on that problem or that project? And then R is the result. What was the result of your actions that created value or solved the problem for the company? And STAR stands for situation, task, action, result. Similar, just a slightly different spin on words, the very similar philosophies. But when you write PAR statements and your resume is rich in PAR statements, which are basically stories of the company had this need, I did this action and it resulted in this value, that's a great resume because it's full of little short stories. And by the way, you might want to write PAR statements for lots of different things that you're interested in doing, but you're only going to include the PAR statements that are relevant to the specific job you're applying for. So if you've written PAR statements about, being a dust bunny collector, and you're applying for a job as a window washer, then you wouldn't include dust bunny collector PAR statements. You would only include window washing PAR statements. So everything has to be relevant to the job you're applying for. No distraction for the person reading it. It is okay in your experience section, in your professional development, in your education, even in your volunteer sections, if you're going to include that on your resume. It is okay to show growth, because when a recruiter or a hiring manager or an HR person sees growth towards where they need you to be, that's powerful. And they're going to say, this person not only has what I need, but they show a willingness to grow and continue learning. So stand out with your stories, stand out with relevance, stand out with PAR statements. Any questions? I'm going to keep moving if you don't. Again, use the chat or unmute yourself if you want to jump in. Let's go a little deeper. Number 8. Here's the context of PAR statements. Write down clearly what the problem or project that needed to be addressed was. Write it down. Write down a sentence or two. When you're writing PAR statements, this is the practice of doing it. Then write down all that you did to address the problem or execute that project. Might be a sentence or two. Scribble it all down. Type it all down, whatever. Then you write down the value or the result, and maybe results that the company or business or client received. Maybe it's multiple results. You write down a sentence or two. Then when you look at what you wrote, the problem or project, you talk about that. And the actions that you did to address the problem or resolve the problem. You look at the results that you got. Then what you do is start rewriting that. And if you work at this diligently enough, you can move that PAR statement down to 1 or 2 sentences. And that is powerful. When you drive a story down into 1 or 2 sentences, and as long as that story is highly relevant to who you are, what you want to do, and relevant to the job, that's a powerful way to write a resume by using these PAR statements. Squeeze it all down. Do this 8 or different times for different things that you were involved in, different PAR statements. Write them all outside of your resume, and then include the ones that you need to include on the resume relevant to the job you're applying for. And by the way, you can also go in your LinkedIn profile if you want. Let's talk about resumes are not autobiographies. The recruiter, hiring manager, HR person, business owner, department head doesn't need to know all of that, of which you would put in your autobiography. They don't care that I picked up trash in the morning and delivered caskets just in time, by the way, to funeral homes back in 1977. It's not relevant. By the way, true story, there was one company. They don't care for the most part of what you did 15 years ago, unless what you did back then is a continuation of what you've been doing for the last 20 or 25 years. And it's highly relevant to the job you're applying for. Focus what you put on your resume to the specific job you're applying for. It's got to all be relevant. If it's not relevant, you better find a way to make it relevant. You better find a way to make it show professional growth, or get it off of there. You do not want to put a hole around, what's it called, a rabbit hole on your resume that someone's going to jump in and go, oh my God, I want to learn more about when Teddy picked up trash and delivered caskets. Because you just distracted them from the most important thing. And that is to read your resume and decide to bring you in for a conversation. That's the goal. And the same thing with all that community service work. you know, and grade point average for your high school and your college and all your test scores you're taking online, a lot of that more often than not is irrelevant. They want to know you went to school. They want to know you went to college if you did. They want to know you got your degree. They want to know you got certificates, but you don't need to beat them all up with all the information about how that happened, and how, you know, the grade point average and test scores and, you know, certificate levels. Just tell them you're good. This is what I studied. This is what I can do. By the way, I'll tell you, I'm 63 years old. And for the most part, no one has ever asked me, in the context of a job, in the context of doing business, no one has ever asked me what school I went to. And I've done lots of stuff. Tip number 6. Your resume should be written in your voice. Oh, Pia's on here. Pia, I'm gonna unmute you or give you the ability to talk. If you have a question, feel free to jump in and ask any question or use the chat box. Your resume should be written in your voice. Dr. Seuss says, you are you, that is truer than true. There's no one out there who is youer than you. So let them discover who you are as a person. Don't try to impress the recruiter with $10 words or $20 words. Minimize slang and acronyms and other terms that someone may not be familiar with. Now, I get it. If you're applying for a project management role, it's probably okay to use PMI. It's probably okay to use PM for project management. But be very careful using those terms and acronyms and abbreviations, because it may confuse the person that you're talking to. And the worst thing you can do is confuse somebody, because the moment they see, oh, this guy worked for ACD3, I don't know what an ACD3 is. It's obviously irrelevant to me. Next resume. Don't do that. Don't write a resume in third person. Teddy Burriss did this, and Teddy Burriss did that. It should be you talking to the reader. Now, you want to be careful not starting every sentence with the word I. I did this, I did that. You can start the conversation with the company needed, or the department needed, or the department, you know, look for different ways to start to pick a different focus for the start of the sentence as you move into your actions and you move into the results of your actions. So it's you speaking to them, but it doesn't need to be I. Oh Lordy, when I realized I'd written my entire LinkedIn profile, I did this, I did that about 5 years ago, I was flabbergasted. And I see resumes that do it all the time. Just get creative, but make it in your voice. Again, any questions, chat, unmute yourself, whatever it is, however you want to jump in, feel free to do it. Tip number 5.
Hey, Teddy.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Is that Jawan? How you doing?
Yes, doing great. How about you?
Absolutely fantastic.
Yes. So you said not to lead with I did this or did that. What is a better way to put that?
Jawan, I could say in the context of Reskill Americans that I did a webinar on resume development, or I could say Reskill Americans needed a resume professional to deliver a resume class, and they hired me to do it. So just, change the focus of the sentence, or the lead in. Instead of me, it could be the organization had a challenge with loss prevention, and I put together a program to address loss, and the result was a 15% reduction in loss.
Oh, well, that was actually going to be my next question, to then say, how do you then highlight, because this is something I've heard a lot, that you need to highlight the accomplishment of the task, not just that you took on a task. So I think what I'm hearing is, instead of starting with yourself and saying, instead of just starting with yourself and saying, I did that, show where the problem was, show how you were able to, be resourceful and solve that problem, and then show the destination, how your intervention in that situation helped to better the circumstances. Is that correct?
Absolutely. They're called PAR statements. This was the problem or the project. This is what I did. And here was the result. Burriss Consulting was struggling to generate followers to its LinkedIn company page. I put together a program to invite more of our target audience to preview our LinkedIn company page. As a result of that program, we doubled our LinkedIn followers, our LinkedIn company page followers in 1 month.
Wow.
Here was the problem. This is what I did. Here was the result. So absolutely. And so, you know, when you write a PAR statement, it's typically going to lead with the company needs versus lead with what I did. So great question. Thank you for asking that, just readdressing it. Number 5, stop over vetting yourself. Stop. Oh my golly, it's nauseating when I see resumes that are out there that are full of all of these adjectives. You know, I'm productive, I'm a team player, I'm aggressive, I'm consistent, I'm honest, I'm inspiring. Stop vetting yourself. Go look at your resume and look and see how often you say that I am all of this. You know, these adjectives. I see it all the time in summary statements and cover letters, and it's just nauseating to read because it doesn't have meaning. And here's another thing to think about too, is that, you know, you should be reliable. You better be determined. I expect you to be competent. I expect you to be productive and adept at doing these skills. We expect you to be, you know, superior at doing the things that we pay you to do, inspiring and accountable. Those are often categories that any hiring manager is going to expect of you. So minimize using that. And if you want them to know how inspiring you are, tell me a short story about it. Tell me a short story about how one of your team members was struggling to be successful, and you helped them evaluate their skills and evaluate the way they did things. And the result of those conversations was you helped an employee become a better asset to the company and believe in themselves. Instead of using all these words and, you know, reliable, comma, constructive, comma, ideal, comma, influential, tell me short little stories within your context of your experience section. Again, a lot of these are assumed, and it really distracts, and it makes your resume look like every other resume out there. If you have a summary statement full of these words, stop it. It looks like every other resume out there, and it doesn't make you look better, and you need to look better. That's my big rant for the day. Tip number 4, ditch the objective statement. Get rid of it. Maybe use a summary section instead. The objective should be clear. I want to have a conversation with you about joining your team and becoming a valuable resource. That should be the objective. It should not be mystical. So why do you even need to state that? And, you know, these objective statements is, I want to become a contributing member of an organization and help them be successful and overcome challenges and grow and, you know, increase their EBITDA by 23%. All of that is assumed. So we don't need to state that. Instead, use that summary section to summarize the skills in a sentence and talk about the things that you do, have done, can do, enjoy doing, relevant to the job you're applying for. And if you don't know this company is looking for a team player, don't use phrases like team player. If you don't know this company is looking for someone to work autonomous, Don't say I'm a great autonomous employee. I can work by myself in a cubby with oxygen and water all day long. Don't say that stuff, because you're pigeonhole yourself in a team player environment or an autonomous environment, and you don't know which one is right. So don't use those kinds of words. Unless you're absolutely clear they're looking for, a single contributor to sit off over there in the Sierra Desert and do things for them. Use a summary section to talk about what you can do, have done, enjoy doing, relevant to the job you're applying for. And maybe it's just an executive summary. Maybe you squeeze that all down and you just, instead of using the word summary, use the phrase executive summary. Oh my God, people love executive summaries. Understand how to write one, but an executive summary is 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 sentences at the most that clearly say that you have reviewed the job that you're applying for. That's important. And you have discovered that your experiences in area A, your skills in area B, your accomplishments in area C are all relevant to the position that you're applying for. And your goal is to have a deeper conversation with the hiring manager, HR, or business owner in regards to how you can help them solve their problems. Squeeze down to 3 or 4 or 5 sentences and call it an executive summary instead of a objective section or a summary section. Summary section is okay. Executive summary is far richer. Questions, thoughts, ideas? Pia,
I think Ashley was showing up to speak for a second, but then she disappeared again.
Ashley disappeared. Really? No, she's out there still.
I showed up to speak. I didn't realize that.
She was here early. She came and got me started.
Oh yeah, your audio was kind of like saying Ashley Chapman is talking.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, okay.
I do have a question, but it's not regarding this particular slide.
Go with it, Ashley.
Okay, my question was regarding earlier. You said, you don't need to show, it's not a biography. You don't need to show all of your career history and all of your jobs that you've done if it's not relevant. So I was actually curious about that, because I think, like myself, there's numerous people in the program that have a lot of experience in different things. And so if they're applying for a job that they don't have a ton of experience in, but they have all this other experience, other careers, I think they need to show that. I don't think that it should look like people don't have like an empty slate background, right?
No, I'm with you. And Pia and Bennett and I talked about this yesterday. So if you're transitioning to a new world in the coding or software development, so you're not going to have a lot of experience. But what you've got to do is you've got to dig into your prior experiences and look for things that you did that are as closely aligned to what you want to do as possible. And it takes time to get there. It doesn't, I told the story about my very first resume I ever wrote, which was probably in 2012. And I was getting hired for a job doing something fairly new. And the friend of mine who was going to hire me, whether he liked it or not, he looked at he needed a resume. His process was, Teddy, I need a resume. You got to give me something. So I cobbled together a resume, which looked more like my obituary. And he said, if it was up to me, I wouldn't hire you, because there was nothing on my resume about training. And the truth of the matter is, I've been training all my life. I just didn't think of it that way. So you've got to dig into what you've done in the past and find anything you can that's relevant to where you're going or shows professional growth.
Okay, got it. Thanks. I'm going to clarify that.
Great point, Ashley. Thank you for bringing that back up, because that's really vital.
Yeah, because I was just thinking about, like, so many people are in transition, right, for their career. So it's like finding ways to make everything relevant, even if it seems far-fetched.
Yeah, if it's got the slightest amount of alignment or shows professional growth, go with it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I think this is rant number 2. So forgive me, please. let's do this question. Use the chat, use the term left or right, left being the objective, right being the summary. Which one do you think is better? I'll write it. The objective to secure a challenging position in a reputable organization, to expand my learning, knowledge, and skills, to secure a responsible career opportunity, to fully utilize my training and my skills while making a significant contribution to the success of the company, use my vast experience to help an organization to be successful. Or my summary is a project management professional with Lean Six Sigma training and certification experiences in banking and finance. I've used my skills in SQL, business analyst, analysis, report writing, discover lost revenues and wasted expenses. I continue to grow my vast skills in data mining, business intelligence applications, the use of Microsoft Excel, scripting, creating reports that provide business knowledge. Which do you think would be a great lead in to the top of your resume? Pia says right. Siobhan says summary. Ashley says right. And that's my point. You need to look at your resume and ask yourself, what are you saying? Look, I know daggone well you're trying to get a job, and I can only assume that you're going to use the skills that you have to do it. So this takes about the same amount of space that this takes, and that's not a huge issue. It could take twice as much space if it provided twice as much value. So yeah, think summary or executive summary. And Joanne says, yeah, it gives the hiring manager a clear picture of what you're offering. Absolutely. Yeah. And then the intent with an executive summary or summary is to intrigue them enough to read more. So if you're applying for the right jobs and you're aligning yourself and your experiences up for the right job, then this should intrigue them to read more on your resume or call you in for a phone call. Hang on, Matt, I screwed up. Let me do this again. This will work better. Tip number 3. Make yourself accessible. Make yourself accessible. Here, listen to this.
The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time. Goodbye.
What is that? How about this message that we often hear?
I'm sorry, but the person you called has a voice mailbox that has not been set up yet. Goodbye.
Are you done talking yet, lady? Oh my golly, what does that say? You know, if you didn't set up your voicemail, or if your voicemail box is full, and by the way, if you're using an iPhone, you not only need to delete the voicemails, but you need to delete the deleted voicemails, because both of those take up space. I did a YouTube video on that recently. You want to make sure you're accessible. So put your contact information in the document. Now listen to these words, not in the header or the footer, because there are some applicant tracking systems will ignore that content in the header and the footer. They go for the document. So additionally, you could use, here's a style that you might want to consider, instead of creating a separate document for your cover letter, which I'm an opinion that because 50% or more recruiters, hiring managers want to read a cover letter if that's written well. Make your cover letter page 1 of your resume. So if your resume is 2 pages, make it 3, and page 1 is your cover letter. One document. That way you're distributing, sending, submitting one document. And it includes your cover letter on page 1 with your contact information, and then your resume again with your contact information. Make yourself accessible. Use a business appropriate email address, you know, and AOL is sort of old school. Okay. Hotmail is right on the edge. Yahoo is right on the edge, but it's better than an AOL, better than a CompuServe. And by the way, use your email address. Don't create an email address specifically for job search. Use your email address, your primary personal / community email address. And here's why. Because once you start engaging with people through this journey, you may want to continue engaging with them. And if you change your email address, all of a sudden they can't get a hold of you. So I recommend one email address and make it your primary, email address that you use in life, beyond a business email address, and use it for everything. Just manage it appropriately. And by the way, don't put 2 phone numbers. Which one do I call? Put the phone number that you're going to answer. Put the phone number that voicemail works because you used someone else's phone and tested it. And you're going to get at least the phone call or the voicemail. And on your resume, on your cover letter, on anything you put out on the internet, don't put your street address. Because by golly, once I know where you live, I'm calling you up and letting you know I'm coming for dinner. We don't need to know your street address. We need to know what city and state you're in, but we don't need to know zip code or street address. Because one reason is, A, we don't need to know it. Another reason is you don't know where that resume is going. It might go to some idiot that's going to use that information inappropriately. So don't publicly give your street address out. Yes, your LinkedIn profile URL should be customized. Yes, it should be on every piece of marketing material you make. Your cover letter, your resume, your email signature, your business card, your portfolio, anywhere you can put it, you need to put it out there, assuming you're managing your LinkedIn profile. And Teddy, what a mistake. I let 4 hours go by and I missed an important email from somebody. Don't let a day go by without checking your email, your voicemail, your LinkedIn messages, your LinkedIn invites, without checking the channels that you have to get in touch with a hiring manager, a business owner, a department manager, or someone who can introduce you to those folks. Customized LinkedIn profile. Ashley's asking about that. If I go to LinkedIn, where's LinkedIn? If I look at my LinkedIn profile, you'll see right here. Come on. There's my LinkedIn profile right there. Okay. LinkedIn.com, INTL Burriss. But I can go look at other people's profiles. And if I look at other people's profiles, you'll see that this guy, let me find somebody here. Did he? I'll give you one. Here's one right here. This lady did not customize hers. Hers is Rachel, EGYED, and a number. First name, last name, and some number. You need to customize it. And it's pretty easy to customize it from your LinkedIn profile. Go to contact information, hit this pencil, and then you hit this icon, you can customize it. So that's what I mean by customize.
Thank you. I didn't know you had the option of doing that. That's great. Thanks.
Yeah, you do. So I didn't use yours as an example, Ashley.
Mine actually is my name, but I just assumed, I can't remember. Maybe I did that or whether it comes that way or not. I guess you have to do it. Or no, maybe it's not. Wait.
No, you have done it. You changed this. You
Okay.
in fact did that.
So it doesn't show up that way automatically. You have to customize it.
Yeah. Yours by default was Ashley-Chapman- some numbers.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
But yeah, I think when they rolled out the feature, they gave people an option to personalize it. So if you missed that, then you probably will still have the old one.
Yeah. By default, everybody has the one with the numbers. You have to go customize it to get the custom, take the numbers out. Make yourself accessible. That's another rant, by the way, but I hope I said that politely. Number 2. Again, I'll reiterate this. Make your page 1 of your resume a cover letter. Now, there's a philosophy to writing a cover letter that is differently than going, oh, I looked at the job description. I really like it. I think I align with it well. Please hire me. And I know none of you do that. A lot of people do. I really like to have this job. I looked at it and it really looks like fun. I really want to be a part of it. I think I can help value. No, don't do that. Instead, do what's called write a T-square model. And here's how a T-square model cover letter works, okay? Yes, you do the intro. Hey, Mr. Hiring Manager, I've done research on this job. I've done some research on the department. I've done a little research on the company and some of the people who work in the department. Listen to those words. I've done some research on some of the people who work in the department, and this job looks very interesting. And I am submitting my resume to you for us to schedule time to discuss this job. Okay. Don't say I hope you put me in for an interview. No, I want to schedule time to talk with you about this job. But then you say, as I'm doing my research, this might be a second or third sentence. As I'm doing my research, I discovered some of the needs that you listed for this job, and I'll share with you how I align with those needs. So then you create two columns. Column number one, you list the business need. They need somebody who understands crystal reports and can create crystal reports. So that's a need. Need crystal reports writer. And then in column two, you say, if you are in fact a crystal report writer and you have that experience, you say to them, I've done crystal report writing for numerous years. I absolutely enjoy creating great crystal reports that create business value. Then you come down to the line and you list the next job description requirement. Need someone who understands how to lead a business analysis, whatever that is. Then in the second column, you go, I've done business analysis work in numerous departments and numerous industries. And I really enjoy using my Microsoft skills, my SQL skills, my DBA skills to do business analysis that helps an organization grow. And then you write a third requirement. You can write up to 4 or 5 requirements based on the amount of space you take up. Try to keep it to 1 page. And you write 3 or 4 or 5 business requirements and write very clearly how you align with those needs. This is called a T-square. I don't know where that name came from. And it really does help position you to align with the needs based on the job description. And typically, not always, but typically a hiring manager, a recruiter, or an HR professional, acquisition person, the first 3 or 4 job requirements are the most important, typically. Sometimes they mix them up, and you can see if they mixed them up if they, put, the ability to carry 50 pounds in item number 2. I don't believe that's necessarily a high requirement. So pick something else that aligns with the job so that you can list it in the column 1 and list how you align with that in column 2. Questions about this? Because this might be a different philosophy than some of you have ever thought about. Anybody, any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. Would it be possible to maybe get a sample of this kind of cover letter, just to give more context to the actual way it should look?
I will get a sample of a T-square, and I will include it when I export out this slide deck.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I've got to go find one. I'm pretty sure I have one. I just got to go find it. So cool. And by the way, you're not going to rehash all the same resume content. You're gonna make it succinct and clear. You're gonna talk about what in the resume, the same things you talk about in the cover letter, but don't copy and paste. What you have in the resume needs to be written differently, maybe a little bit more story than the succinct clarity statement that you use in the T-square part in column 2 that aligns with the requirement that's in column 1. And make sure that in your cover letter, you're speaking to the hiring manager about the job, about your interest and your research that you did on the job on regards to the role, your research you did on the company, your research where relevant and appropriate or that you did on the hiring manager and people in the department. You can let them know that you did that research and you see great alignment with the needs of the business, the needs of the department, and the hiring manager and the team, if you've done that amount of research. And those of you who've never heard me talk about career transition, you need to be spending 30% of your time researching companies, departments, people, and roles. And there's nothing wrong where relevant, appropriate to drop names. You can talk about, you had a great conversation with a member of the team, and that inspired you to do more research on the company, more research on the goals, more research on the department, and then to send this letter inviting the hiring manager to a conversation. And make this human. You are a human being applying to have a conversation with another human being. Don't be a robot. Don't, oh Lord, don't make a dumb mistake about copy and paste and you change one of the PAR statements and it's all about making apple butter and you're applying for a job to make carrot cake. Lord, that'll get you in trouble, Teddy. Tip number 1. Review and restate your relevant skills. Use keywords and phrases throughout all of your resume content where relevant, appropriate. Make sure you review that you use the keywords that are on the job description within your resume. And there's nothing wrong at the end of it, just listing, and don't put them all in a big paragraph, dancer, comma, singer, comma, belly dancer, comma, lint collector, comma. Don't do that. Don't write a big hunk of text. Nobody wants to read a big hunk of text. Put a keyword or a phrase or a skill or accomplishment, one per line. Make it easy to read. And you could list those relevant skills at the bottom. Don't use a table, because a table also can get in trouble with applicant tracking systems. Use just one line, one keyword / phrase per line. You might put a title above it that says review of my relevant skills. Something at the top that says, just want to restate my relevant skills for you. And again, you're trying to write this, in such a way the applicant tracking system doesn't get tricked up, doesn't bump into a table or a footer and can't extrapolate that data out so that it puts you into the list for a human to look at it. I'm on track. Here's a bonus tip. Functional resume use. So there's a typical chronological resume, starts with today and goes back 10, 15 years. A functional resume is more of a story of how you've grown and how, throughout your career. So, if I was to write a resume for myself today, then, I wouldn't use a chronological resume. I would use a functional resume that talks about the people that I've served, the departments, the companies I've worked with. I'd use I have a paragraph where I talk about a specific keyword and how I used, how I served and created and trained and coached relevant to that keyword. Maybe a paragraph about LinkedIn, a paragraph about Facebook, et cetera, rather than a chronological one, which would be less useful for a huge career shift. This would be a huge career shift. So you can show your growth and how your skills and experiences and development have helped you grow into this new environment you're in, this new world, this new journey you're on, without getting into the aspects of all these other jobs that the job themselves may not be highly relevant, but what you did could be. Sylvie asked, how many pages should the average resume be? Sylvie, if you have 3 pages that are rich in content, rich in stories, rich in examples and keywords and successes, and showing the recruiter how serious you are about doing the work that you want to do for them, there's nothing wrong with a 3-page resume. I would think for most people, a 3-page resume would be enough. especially if the first page is a cover letter. It's really not so matter about how many pages it is. It's that, you know, when you look at page 3, 4, 5, or 6, is it still impactful? Is it still relevant? Is it still meaningful? Or are you just writing crap? Are you just writing your obituary? But if you're writing meaningful content, relevant content that shows professional growth, shows you executing on your skills, and that's on page 4 or 5, then so be it. Page 4 and page 5 are just as important. But again, with that caveat, it's all got to be meaningful and relevant. I told you the story about Ron Barra said, you know, Teddy, you gave me a resume and it was in chronological order, and he says nothing in there about training. In hindsight, I should have only talked about training, professional development, leading sessions, doing webinars, doing seminars, doing worksheets, developing worksheet content. I should have talked all about the things that he wanted me to do in a functional resume and said, you know, here's what I've been doing over the past 15 years relevant to what you want today. By the way, another point, no one has really asked me what I was doing 15 years ago. No one's really asked me, Teddy, where did you work before? Never happened other than casual conversation. Again, another point, when you're doing a functional resume or even a chronological resume, make sure you're changing the words that you're using. I do a lot of work with vets, and vets talk about, you know, bombs, and they talk about, you know, what's it called? Incendiary devices. They talk about, you know, platoons, and they talk about, you know, marching. They use military words, and they're transitioning into working the corporate America or working civilian life. You can't use military words, especially words like bombs or incendiary or whatever. You got to adjust the words to fit the role, the industry, and the company type so that you're using the right words. There we go. If you were in the tank division, you don't talk about, you know, how you can drive a tank. You talk about how you lead a tank division, how you lead them, how you mentor, how you coach them, how you help them be successful, driving a tank through the desert or whatever. Hope there are no tank drivers on here. Here's a bonus tip. Don't make dumb mistakes, Teddy. No Comic Sans fonts. Nobody wants Comic Sans anymore. No tiny fonts. Sylvie, do not use a 3-point font to get 5 pages into 3. At the minimum, you want 11 points. Minimum. 12 points is better for old people, but 11's fine. No table formats. Okay. Check the spelling of the hiring manager on your cover letter. You do not want to misspell the hiring manager's name, Teddy. I made this dumb mistake. I sent a proposal to the owner of a company and I misspelled his name. Fortunately, his secretary is a friend of mine and she got the letter I sent to him. But unfortunately, she said, Teddy, you made the dumbest mistake ever. I'm not even going to give you a chance to correct it. She goes, I want you to learn from your mistake. Boy, did I ever learn from that. Check the spelling name of the company and don't misspell project manager or pubic relations. That is embarrassing, Teddy. I didn't do those. Active language. Speak to what you did. Speak to how you served. Speak to how you created. Speak to how you delivered. Don't say, I did spreadsheets. Don't say, I created crystal reports. Speak about why you did it. Goes in many ways goes back to PAR statements. And review every sentence you write and make sure it makes sense. Make sure you can read it clearly and understand it. Maybe get someone else to read it and make sure they understand it. And is it relevant to the job, to the company, to the hiring manager, to the industry? I wrote company twice, Teddy. Mistake, but not a dumb one. And how does everything you write on your resume support your values? support your alignment with that company or that division or that job or that department? Is it clear and concise, Teddy? No rambling. Well, I just dropped a lot of ideas on you. I just dropped a lot of different perspectives on you. So where did I leave you? I'm good for a few more minutes. What questions do you folks have that I can answer for you? Oh, I'll put there's T-square. I got it in here. So questions?
The T-square you have in there, is that like an article about it, or is there a sample in there?
I think there's articles in this link.
Okay.
Hi, Teddy. Hi, everyone. I have a question. When you talked about keywords at the bottom of a resume, is that just for like AI to pick up when people submit their resumes, or is like what is it just words like
You're talking about listing keywords at the bottom?
Yeah, you mentioned something about putting keywords at the bottom of a resume.
Yeah, the keywords could be a list of your skills, a list of the Microsoft Excel, SQL, DBA, Crystal Reports, that kind of, those would only be for the applicant tracking system, the AI.
Got it.
For it
Yeah.
to see that you have, not only did you use Crystal Reports in the messaging or in the stories and the sentences, but you also repeated it down at the bottom. So the AI would pick up, oh, they got Crystal Reports in their resume 4 times in different places that must be relevant.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks. And then when you do, first of all, we'll share, just for everyone here and also on the recording, we'll be sharing Teddy's presentation when he sends it to us. Would you also be able to include like a sample, say like example of a resume you'd recommend is good and one that you'd recommend is not so good? Or, I mean, it's obviously a fictitious person you'd have to use. Is that possible to do?
Yeah, I'll go look and see if I can find a good resume format. I mean, you got to remember, every resume is going to be different.
Right. That's why.
So sometimes I get in trouble when I share a 2-page resume, and Sylvie has a need to do 3 pages.
Right. Okay.
So I'll look and see if I can find some good resume examples. So,
okay.
Again, there's one of the reasons I didn't get into style. I didn't talk about formatting. I didn't talk about width and height and all that stuff, because everybody has different ideas. I just think that if you focus on the content and you make sure the content is meaningful and you use what's referred to as basic formatting practices, the content's what's the most important. Taylor asked, should I list reskill Americans under education and work experience as an intern? Yeah, I think so, if it's relevant. Absolutely. And not only list that you did it, but what did you do? How did you grow? How did you learn? What did you discover? How is this going to make you a better, whatever it is you're trying to be? Yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions?
So I asked about resume length because I work for the federal government and I work in HR, and I am so used to seeing a resume from anywhere from 5 to 10 pages. And a lot of that is normal for the government. So I was just curious because I haven't, applied to the private sector in over 15 years now. So it's been a while.
Well, the big question would be, Sylvie, was if you look at a 7-page resume, on page 7, are you still intrigued with learning more about this person, or are they droning on?
Oh, I agree. It's just that it seems to be the standard. And I couldn't fathom that is still the standard in the private sector, or has ever been the standard, I should say, in the private sector. It's just,
Yeah. Clear and concise, and often for most of us, clear and concise can be done in less than 3 pages.
Good. I agree.
Anybody else?
Okay, I have a question. Is it okay to just hire someone to do your resume for you instead of doing it yourself?
Oh, Lordy, and I'm recording this. I have a lot of friends of mine who are resume writers, and they're fabulous people. And they're, you know, if I know 50 people, I guarantee there's 50 different styles of writing resumes. That being said, if you hire a resume writer and they don't spend time talking with you about the specific job that you're applying for, they're going to write you one resume that is you, and they're not going to craft the resume focused to the specific job you're applying for. And now there are some resume writers who may give you a template and then encourage you to make adjustments to fit the job you're applying for. Because the bottom line is a resume needs to be a call to action, an invite to conversation to the specific person, hiring manager, or the specific job you're applying for. So for most of us, one resume will not cut it. You're going to have to adjust the summary, and you're going to have to adjust the words you use in the experience section. Now,
Okay,
if you
thank
can find a resume writer who's going to help you position to be able to do that, then I would encourage you to go that way. Ashley, thoughts? Anything?
Okay.
Yeah, I totally actually agree with what you're saying, Teddy. I think that's like spot on, actually. I mean, you don't want it to sound generic. If you're hiring someone to do this, they need to know who you are and what you're really looking for. And a good resume writer will be interviewing you.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything wrong with hiring someone as long as they take the time to get to know what your objectives are.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good, powerful question. Ashley, anything else that you have?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to say for everyone a couple things. Teddy, I mean, this is like preaching to the choir here because all of you are Teddy fans, but he, as you may have seen, has a bunch of sessions still for this week and next week for LinkedIn tips. If you haven't joined already, you should totally sign up. We've sent an email about that. And in addition, I know some of you have talked about experiences you've had in the program, working on side projects or interviewing or whatever it may be, or maybe you have some cool success stories, anything. We would love to just have some testimonials and hear some of your positive experiences. We've sent an email out about that, but we're hoping to feature some people on our website. And it doesn't need to be, oh, I got a job. It's just, any interesting experience you've had along your journey with Reskill Americans. We'd love to hear it. So please do see that email, and we look forward to hearing from you. And
Cool. Good stuff.
yeah. That's all.
Ashley, to sign up for the LinkedIn session, do you have to have a LinkedIn already? Because I do not have.
Absolutely not. That's the whole point, right? That's why Teddy wants to talk to you.
I know
So
it prompts you to put in your LinkedIn email address or something, and I was like, ooh, I haven't done that.
Oh, yeah, but that's okay. Just put Teddy, please forgive me, I don't have it yet.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ashley.
All right.
Sure. Thank you, Teddy.
Hey, I'll see you guys another day.